Welcome back, dudes. In this episode, we're going to try to figure out what's going on with my van. This is a 99 Chevy Astro all-wheel drive. It's a great van, but the one thing it has not been is reliable. I don't know what's going on, but one of the videos I put out recently was replacing the distributor with a billet unit using brass, high-performance cap and rotor, and the van made it about 3,000 miles, and then it wouldn't start. I pulled the doghouse and everything, expecting to find corrosion on the cap and rotor, but I did find this. So the center electrode was completely burnt out. I thought maybe it was a fluke and it was pressing too hard on the cap. So I went and bought another rotor, threw that in. Van made it another 3,000 miles. We came back from Colorado and I noticed a slight miss. I parked the van, and then 2 days later, wouldn't start. It has not been able to start since. So I pulled the doghouse again, and the same thing happened. That center electrode on the rotor was completely vaporized. So I bought a new rotor, I threw the new rotor in, and the van still will not start. Right now, I'm not sure what the problem is. It could be the crankshaft position sensor, it could be the coil. If a coil goes bad, it could be giving too much power to the ignition system, and that could have caused the melted center electrode. So let's go diagnose the coil. So to check the coil, we're going to be using 3 tests with an ohm meter. So just pull out your multimeter and set it to ohms. Then I'm going to throw a graphic up here just to help you diagnose it. All right, let's test this quick and see what we find out. To find the coil, this is for one bank of cylinders, this is for another. You're just going to trace this wire, and that's going to lead you back here. So what did we learn so far? Well, it's passing the tests, so it could still be the coil somehow. But right now, I'm thinking I want to check the crankshaft position sensor. All right, it's the next day. I am really suspecting the crank position sensor, so we're going to pull it out and see if it has any signs of damage. All right, so you go under your van. Here is the main pulley, and here's the sensor. It's pretty easy to get to, and then it's one 8mm bolt. If this quits working, your van will not start. I actually got stranded by this part once in Nebraska. All right, and I don't know if this is showing up on camera, but there are some scratches on this thing that's showing it's being contacted. So this is what we're gonna try. I put a black O-ring on the flange of this part. The idea is that we'll space it further away from whatever is contacting this. Also, I just want to point out that this whole thing is kind of loose. Like it's just not a very well-made part. So shimming it did nothing, the van still won't start. Ran to the auto parts store, and this is interesting. So I bought a new crankshaft position sensor because mine showed some scratches. I don't know if you can see this, but I looked at a couple brands and they all had scratches across the face. And this is brand new. I mean, the plating's new. So I don't know, it did come with shims. So we're going to throw this new one in with shims and see if it starts. Hopefully this is the issue, because otherwise I have no idea. Man, that's weird. It's like not cranking over evenly. All right, boys, this is the next day. I've done a lot of Googling, a lot of reading on the forums and Facebook. One thing that stuck out to me was how this thing was cranking. It would crank really fast and then kind of slow down suddenly and pop, and it sounds like the timing is off. So there's only 2 ways that I think this could happen. One, the distributor gear wore enough in 6,000 miles that somehow it rose up and skipped a tooth and now the timing's off. 2, I'm an idiot and I installed the rotor backwards. All right, so it turns out you cannot put the rotor on backwards. What I did find in there were both of the tabs for my previous 2 rotors, which means there was not a voltage problem. Don't know what could have caused these to break. If that isn't working, we're going to retime the distributor. We're going to pull it, get the cylinders top dead center on cylinder number 1, and reinstall the distributor. I don't know what could be causing this timing issue, but something. All right, this is a different cap and rotor, but other than that, I haven't changed anything. I think it's still gonna misfire. I have no idea why it's suddenly working. We're gonna swap it over to this cap. This one has the copper instead of the aluminum, so I think it'll be a little better to prevent corrosion. I have a hypothesis after looking at this cap. So inside you can see those wear marks, and I had 2 rotors kind of disintegrate in here. And when you look at the walls of this cap, it's covered with tiny little particles of plastic and metal. So I think what was happening was the power was grounding out and going down to the distributor body, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of voltage, and it might be less resistance to skip across all those metal particles that are like evenly deposited in there than to go through and do the spark plug. So I'm gonna wipe this out really good and reinstall it, and we're gonna see if it runs on this one, because it was not running on this one before. All right, boys, that was it. I cleaned the distributor cap and she runs like a peach now. So why did this happen? Why did my van eat or break or snap off 2 center electrodes? Well, I'm gonna show you what was going on inside this distributor cap. So I don't know if you can see it, but this center electrode does not look symmetrical. It looks kind of beat up on one side and smooth on the other side. And I'm wondering if originally I just had a bunk cap and the center electrode snapped off or was bent or something, and then screwed this up somehow, because I'm not seeing any signs of contact with this new rotor like I was seeing on that blue one that was originally in here. You can see the wear marks right there. So I'm thinking what happened is that center electrode snapped off, and then it was right in that area bouncing around, and that's actually what caused the damage to the cap and the rotor. In the next video, I'm going to show you guys how to mechanically adjust your distributor for better performance and hopefully not have to deal with this again. I mean, I love this van, but this has been the most unreliable vehicle I have ever owned. It pretty much requires a distributor cap and rotor once or twice a year, and that's obnoxious. So we're going to try to get to the bottom of that in the next video. Stay tuned. Till then, see you next time.